I will take the ring to Mordor, Gandalf. Oh, I will help you with this burden, as long as it is your burden to bear. I will help as well. You may have my sword, and my bow, and my axe.
Oh, hello. I'm Brian Hank, and this is a strategy video on the game The Lords of Waterdeep by Peter Lee and Rodney Thompson. As you probably know if you're watching this video, The Lords of Waterdeep is an incredible game, and very thematic too, in everything except these little cube meeples. So, if you can use your imagination and pretend that they are actually wizards, clerics, rogues, and fighters, then you will have a great gaming experience every time you play this game. But this is a strategy video, so let me talk about strategy. First, I'm going to cover the economy of the game. Then I'm going to go through a game progression, so what you want to focus on early, middle, and late game. And then lastly, I'm going to specifically cover buildings, intrigue cards, and quests. So let's get into the strategy. The economy in the game is actually very simple, and you can even use the board as kind of a reference card so you can understand how much each resource is worth. So if we take a look, 2 fighters are worth 1 wizard, which is worth 2 rogues, which is worth 1 cleric. And those are worth 4 gold, roughly. You can also say that that's equal about 2 intrigue cards. So if you keep that in mind throughout the game, you're going to make decisions constantly about which quests to take, which quests to accomplish, where to assign your agents. You're trying to maximize your resources. So if you are faced with a decision, should I get a cleric or should I get a rogue, then you know that your answer is probably cleric because it's worth twice as much as a rogue. So it's these decisions that you make over and over again that will give you an edge over your competition over and over again so that you can maximize your resources, which will maximize your victory points. Now I'm going to go through game progression. We'll go early, middle, and late. So we'll start off with early game, and this is rounds 1 through 3. Here you have 2 primary objectives, one being to buy buildings. If you can buy buildings early game, you can use them either yourself or have other people use them throughout the game, and it will get you tons and tons of resources throughout. It'll be well worth the money. So early game, you want those buildings. You'll also want to get plot quests. Plot quests will help you to build an engine, and that engine will be used later in the game. So early game, build the engine, late game, just execute and use that engine. Of course, you only want to get quests that will give you a bonus because of your lord. So if you have the Piety and Skullduggery lord, you get a bonus for those types. Only get those quests. So you want plot quests of those types, and you want buildings that will give you output of those types of resources. Especially if there's a bonus where if somebody else uses the building, then you get that type of adventure. So a rogue or a cleric, in our example. And then of course, with the quests, you're exclusively getting the Piety and Skullduggery. If you can't get a plot quest, it's still good to get a quest that will have an output of adventurers, because you can use those adventurers for the input of another quest, and you can complete a whole bunch and get that lore bonus. For the middle game, that will be rounds roughly 4 through 6, and here you're transitioning from just buying buildings and plot quests into really just focusing on those quests that will get you adventurers. Those are going to be well worth the money. You're going to be completing those quests, plus getting the output of the adventurer types that you need. So for our example, clerics and rogues, and then you're going to be using those to complete more quests, and you're going to really do that transition from engine building to execution. Now I'm going to talk about the end game, and these are rounds 7 and 8. Here there are again some primary objectives. The first one being to identify your competition. Depending on the number of players in the game, you're probably going to have 1 or 2 people who you'll be vying with for first place in the game. So you can slow them down, you can handcuff them in many ways. First, identify the lord that they have based on the quest that they've already completed. You should be able to do that, and then you can take up those resources on the board so that they won't have an easy march to victory in the end. You can also, second objective is to give them mandatory quests. Hopefully you've gotten a mandatory quest or 2 from your intrigue cards throughout the game. In round 8, you can probably use them, look at the resources they have, look at the quests that they are trying to complete, and then give them a mandatory quest if that will hinder them, prevent them maybe from cashing in on like a 20-point quest. That's going to be huge and could easily be the difference in the game. The last thing that you'll want to focus on is just quests that will give you tons and tons of victory points. So you should have built up a decent engine now. Use that engine and then forget about plot quests. Forget about quests that will give you adventures as output. You just want victory points as your output. Now I'm going to move on to quests, and to help with this discussion, I created a spreadsheet of every single quest, the input that you need, the output that you get out of it, and a ratio to help decide which ones are the best quests. So if you want to look at that spreadsheet, you can go to my blog, theforbiddenlimb.com, download it and mess around with it as you see fit. But you will find that all the quests are actually very, very well balanced, with the exception of one. There's one standout quest, Thin the City Watch, has incredible output for the input that's needed. So you're going to have to find another way to get an edge over your competition other than just the input and output of each quest that you may choose. So there are two ways to do that through quests, one being your Lord's bonus. The other way is through the special bonuses that you can get from some of the quests. So obviously if we go back to the Skullduggery and Piety Lord example, if you have that Lord, you're only going to complete Skullduggery and Piety quests. And usually the winner of the game is the person who can complete the most quests of their Lord's type. The other way to do it would be through special bonuses. So if I get maybe the one that gives me an extra 2 victory points for Piety quests, now I can complete Piety quests and get 6 victory points for each one. So I would focus mostly on getting those quests. I can still complete Skullduggery ones, but if I possibly can, if they're available from Cliffwatch Inn, then I would get the Piety quests. So that's it. Very well balanced, but you need to find ways to get an edge over your competition through either Lord's bonus or special quest rewards. As for buildings, I touched on this a little bit in the game progression section, but it's super important. The main idea, I guess, is that buy buildings early is kind of the key. If you can make an investment in a building for like 4 gold and it's used 5 or 6 times throughout the game, your initial investment is going to pay off multiple times over. So super good way to increase your efficiency, increase the amount of resources that you get throughout the game, and even well worth spending a few action points on Castle Waterdeep and Aurora's Realm Shop early on so that you can get the resources you need to buy buildings, because they are so worth it. So for those obvious reasons it's worth it, but then for some less obvious reasons, such as whoever controls the Builder's Hall controls the game, because they control which resources are going to go out there, the buildings that are available and the resources that you can get. So if your Lord requires, it gets the bonus for the Piety and Skullduggery quests, you're going to want clerics and you're going to want rogues. So if you can get buildings out there that produce those, and even better, get them out there so that you get a free bonus when other people use them, it's going to help you tremendously in accomplishing those quests. So again, whoever controls Builder's Hall controls the game. And lastly, we have Intrigue cards, and this is a way for you to improve your action efficiency. So you can basically get 2 actions for the price of 1. You put one on Waterdeep Harbor, you use an Intrigue card, you get something from that, and then you get to reassign it later. So your actions are more restricted than they would be if you were to just choose a place on the board, but oftentimes it's well worth it for getting 2 of them. You'll sometimes get Intrigue cards that are not worth playing, especially if you get down to like a 2-player game. If you're getting one thing and they're getting one thing, like one adventurer to one adventurer, then it's pretty much a washout, and it's really just a waste of your turn. You might as well just go play somewhere on the board that's going to get you just something that you need, and not give them anything. So it really depends on how many players and what it will mean, what resources they have, and which ones they need, whether or not it's worth it for you to play. So every time you want to play an Intrigue card, you really have to do that calculation, that kind of internal calculation. What does this get me, and what does this get my opponents? That's the end of this video. Thank you for watching, and I hope you found something useful that you can bring into a future game of Lords of Waterdeep. Remember that you can get a detailed version of this analysis on my blog, theforbiddenlimb.com. There's also a comment section there, or one, obviously, on YouTube. If you have a tactic or strategy that you find useful, that I didn't cover, throw it in one of those comment sections so that you can tell the world. Otherwise, you can subscribe. That would be awesome. And then I will pop up on your YouTube when I do more of these videos. Until then, I will see you later.